Voiceover research. Phase 1. The human node. Scanning the perimeter for toxic emotional interference. Most cognitive entities operate under the assumption that a high empathy matrix is an inherent design flaw. They assume a sensitive processor is easily overloaded, targeted by social predators, and drained of clean energy for extensive periods. This operational theory holds true. The predator extracts core assets until the terminal crashes. However, continuous high-pressure exploitation triggers a rare, deep-level mutation within the victim's core software. The architecture undergoes a forced upgrade. Today, we document the activation of the Super Empath protocol. To trace this phenomenon, we must first analyze the internal shift of a node that refuses total system shutdown. Years of synthetic gaslighting and emotional warfare act as a brutal, high-frequency stress test for the target. The subject disconnects from the external validation server. The security keys are now completely local and encrypted. Once a super empath locks down their psychological border, they become a fatal error for the manipulator's logic. They do not trigger. They do not send error reports. They simply close the port. Analyzing protocol step 1. The predator sends a high-volume payload of manufactured guilt, expecting a standard emotional crash from the target. Panic transitions into complete shutdown. Their primary life support system, your attention, has been severed at the root. They will attempt a brute force breach using fake emergencies, pity traps, or simulated health crises. The super empath passes the incoming transmission, tags it as malware, and hits the delete key instantly. They block the transmission vector, not out of anger, but as a basic requirement for environmental sanity. This boundary is not a wall built during a crisis. It is a clean, permanent shield keeping the interior sterile. Behind this shield, the super empath continues to run clear operations, completely detached from the external drama. Let us isolate the exact psychological mechanism that makes the super empath completely invulnerable here. It is the complete separation of human empathy from the toxic compulsion to fix broken, hazardous entities. They can register that the predator is in agony, but they refuse to burn their own house down to keep them warm. This single distinction changes everything. It updates empathy from a vulnerability to a precise, tactical superpower. They see the trauma, they map the pathology, but they prioritize their own operational parameters every single time. They choose local system stability without a single millisecond of hesitation, artificial regret, or social guilt. This absolute transparency forces the narcissist to execute the final loop of the predator protocol, the discard. Realizing the target cannot be hacked, compromised, or exploited, they attempt to script a face-saving exit. They leave in a theatrical explosion, announcing to the entire network that the empath was the true malfunction. They pack up their masks, their scripts, and their toxic routines, searching for a weaker, unpatched target. They pause at the exit node, waiting for the target to break down, beg for answers, or demand closure. Instead, the super empath simply monitors the exit, logs the disconnect, and enjoys the immediate drop in noise. The closure you were hunting for will never come from their terminal. It is delivered by their absolute absence. Their departure is the ultimate optimization of your resources, though their ego tries to frame it as a penalty. The super empath accepts the gift, stepping into the massive, quiet space that has suddenly cleared up. The heavy, chemical fog of perpetual confusion clears away, leaving behind a sharp, high-definition reality grid. The daily emotional roller coaster is officially offline. The tracks are gone. The platform is stable. The massive volume of power previously spent on daily defense is now redirected into personal upgrades. This is where the real construction begins. The complete, uninterrupted restoration of your authentic identity. You realize you didn't just survive a toxic encounter. You successfully stress-tested your entire mental platform. Every wound left by the manipulator has calcified into an unhackable node of pure psychological armor. The past is no longer an error log to regret. It is treated as a highly advanced training simulation. The transition is complete. From an open, unshielded target to an absolute sovereign of your local sector. The predator's attempt to break your code failed entirely. They accidentally built the one entity they fear most. Projecting this data into future operations. What happens to your behavioral parameters moving forward? Once you initialize the Super Empath protocol, your threat detection systems become incredibly fast. You identify manipulation profiles not with panic or anxiety, but with cold, passive pattern recognition. You will never allow a disordered entity into your secure environment again, no matter the charm rating. You treat your psychological peace as your highest sovereign asset, refusing to trade it for any illusion. The outer perimeter becomes tighter, the inner circle smaller, but the air inside becomes crystal clear. This structural change unlocks a level of autonomy that the average human node never manages to achieve. You no longer avoid toxic dynamics out of fear. You simply render yourself completely unmanipulatable. The fear of narcissistic entities dissolves entirely, replaced by absolute confidence in your local firewall. You can walk through highly chaotic environments, remaining perfectly balanced while the storm peaks outside. Your focus, your emotional currency, and your time belong entirely to you. The vampires have lost leverage. The basic matrix of survival is left behind. You have entered the zone of permanent psychological sovereignty. Never forget, the predator's authority is entirely dependent on your agreement to read their text. They require your anger, your desperation, and your constant attention to maintain their fragile reality. The exact millisecond you drop the script, walk off the set, and tilt the mirror, the theater collapses. You are under zero obligation to manage their shame, their empty sectors, or their chronic insecurity. Your only duty is to maintain the alignment of your processor and defend the integrity of your space. When you lock down this state, you become a variable that no psychological predator can ever calculate. As this research log draws to a close, take a moment to audit your own trajectory and progress. If you have personally occupied the target position in these matrix loops, understand the damage was temporary. It was the precise catalyst required for a profound system upgrade that very few minds ever undergo. The pressure forged a baseline that is significantly stronger and more resilient than the original code. The sovereign self within you is now fully active, optimized, and ready to command your daily reality. Trust the upgrade. Stand firmly inside your verified data, and never apologize for enforcing absolute peace. The world requires individuals who can maintain deep perception without dissolving into external darkness. Authentic strength is not about being an open sponge for global noise. It is about being an immovable lighthouse. You can fully comprehend another entity's pathology while keeping your own borders completely untouchable. Let the controllers run their chaotic simulations elsewhere, far outside your local network. You have cut the transmission lines, mastered the tilted mirror, and stepped completely into your real power. The horizon ahead is clean, transparent, and built exclusively for high resonance, functional connections. Instead, the data hits a solid wall of zero response. Let us evaluate why the predator seeks this connection. A standard narcissistic engine requires constant external feedback loops to maintain its artificial, structural integrity. They need an organic mirror to absorb their waste, validate their fake status, and stabilize their fluctuating ego. A regular human node offers an unshielded, passive surface, but the super empath alters the reflection mechanics. They implement the tilted mirror array, just enough to redirect the predator's toxic signal back to its source. The manipulator suddenly catches a raw glimpse of their own internal void. Panic enters the primary subsystem. Every day you maintain your internal stillness is another day of absolute victory over the old system. The manipulator wanted you to lose your orientation, but your anchor has found solid bedrock. Let the external noise peak. The super empath always remains the quiet center of the hurricane. You have decoded the hidden subtext of toxic behavior, stripping it of all tactical advantages. There is no exploit left in your code that would allow them to re-enter your mental space. You are now the sole developer of your reality, and your local build is entirely secure. Final victory over a disordered dynamic is not a loud confrontation or a public execution of the predator. True victory is total, absolute indifference, when their name produces zero resonance in your system. You look back at the historical data simply as an archived file that carries no execution priority. You have reclaimed every single cycle of attention you once wasted trying to fix an unfixable system. The integration of your light and shadow assets is complete, creating a balanced, high-performance architecture. You stand tall, stabilized by a rock-solid foundation of emotional self-sufficiency and raw power. As you initialize this new phase of your life, remember to root your empathy inward first. Forgive the system for the moments it ran old code, stayed too long, or allowed boundary breaches. Those errors were necessary steps in the optimization process required to build the person you are today. The past log is closed and saved, but the present terminal belongs to you. Write the next line. Surround your space with absolute clarity. Seek real functional resonance. And let your life stabilize. You have earned this quiet environment by surviving high-intensity trials. Guard it with everything you have. The manipulator's theater is officially out of business. The masks are broken. And the stage is dark. What remains on the floor is the pure, unfiltered reality of your incredibly resilient soul. You are the sovereign administrator of your emotional landscape, forever free from toxic remote control. Continue moving forward along your timeline, letting your internal light validate every single step. The mirror stays tilted, the perimeter remains ironclad, and the internal peace remains absolute. You have successfully solved the most complex psychological labyrinth and stepped out into the clear morning sun. Thank you for reviewing this deep analysis of structural resilience, human growth, and transformation. If this audit matched your personal case file, feel free to document your observations in the section below. Your personal log of overcoming the loop might be the exact data packet someone else needs to escape. Subscribe to the channel to maintain connection and receive future breakdowns of human behavioral mechanics. Always remember who you are, maintain a strict perimeter, and trust your local radar above all else. Stay strong, preserve your core center, and welcome to the era of your absolute operational freedom. Attention! The predator's grandiose behavior is not a sign of high performance. It is structural scaffolding. Beneath the aggressive outer layers lies a deep, unstable reservoir of suppressed shame and chronic identity deletion. Every lie, every sudden temper tantrum, every silent treatment is just a cooling system preventing total meltdown. The super empath's specific evolutionary advantage is the ability to track this hidden shame on a subatomic level. They observe the fragile, terrified construct hiding behind the heavy armor. And once detected, the armor becomes useless. The perceived threat is immediately downgraded. The predator is now just a looping script with predictable outcomes. The super empath offers no patch files. They do not run rescue subroutines. They remain in dead silence. This total lack of feedback is catastrophic for the predator. Their entire weapon array requires your active ping. Anger, explanations, defensive statements. All of it is usable fuel. But absolute stillness is an information. When the manipulator deploys a standard guilt trip and the target's frequency remains flat, systemic panic spreads. The stillness of a completely unbothered consciousness drains the predator's batteries faster than any open conflict. Without emotional supply, the narcissist realizes their administrative access has been revoked. The session is closed. Phase 2. The immediate collapse of the relationship cycle. Idealization and devaluation routines stop responding. The predator initiates contact with love-bombing protocols, excessive compliments, fake urgency, and heavy mirroring. The super empath runs a background scan, identifies the traffic as a transactional bribe, and discards the packet. Because the initial injection vector fails, the narcissist cannot proceed to phase 2, the devaluation cycle. The entire tactical script breaks down in the opening sequence. The actor is shouting, but the microphone is dead. Observe the resulting error state. The manipulator's confusion rapidly mutates into volatile, unorganized irritation. When charm subroutines fail to execute, the system defaults to gaslighting, a forced rewrite of local reality. The usual commands are issued. Your memory is corrupted. That never happened. You are misinterpreting the history logs. However, the super empath maintains an unalterable, offline backup of facts. Their internal timeline is read-only. They refuse to send paragraphs of text. They do not waste processing power arguing with a broken terminal. They state the verified data point exactly once, drop the connection, and refuse to acknowledge further requests. You cannot gaslight a system that treats your input as noise. The predator's narrative faces a memory leak. Deprived of all manipulation vectors, the narcissist experiences a major ego fracture. The core shell shatters. The internal shame they ran from for decades breaches the containment wall. The defense grid enters critical failure. The immediate fallback strategy is narcissistic rage. A messy, desperate smear campaign to salvage their public rating. They broadcast corrupted files to mutual contacts, attempting to overwrite your reputation with manufactured fiction. The super empath anticipated this broadcast. They do not launch a counter-offensive. They remain entirely offline. If a secondary node accepts unverified fiction as fact, that node is permanently blacklisted from the network. By maintaining zero kinetic movement, the super empath forces the predator to witness their own absolute irrelevance. The manipulator realizes that no matter how much noise they generate, they cannot alter the target's core temperature. This is the ultimate horror for an extractive entity. It represents the permanent loss of behavioral control. The super empath remains an isolated monolith, completely immune to the emotional shockwaves rippling through the environment. The systemic roles are now fully inverted. The hunter is now the exposed, panicking casualty of their own code. The presence that once felt like a massive, suffocating firewall is now revealed to be a tiny, empty loop. Initializing the final protocol, the deployment of permanent, structural, ironclad radio silence. This is not a petty silent treatment used to extort a reaction. This is a total physical disconnect. It is the complete removal of all attention bandwidth. No anger, no curiosity, no spite, just absolute. To a narcissist, rage is acceptable traffic. Rage means the line is still active. Rage means they still exist. But total, cold indifference, it means they have been fully uninstalled from your reality. Total system deletion. Faced with this complete void, the predator's internal framework implodes under the weight of its own emptiness.